you an expert, entrepreneur, or small business owner passionate about helping people through life's transitions? The Fresh Starts Expert membership is perfect for you. For just $55 per month, this dynamic membership is designed to boost your business and amplify your brand. Fresh Starts is here to provide you with business development, marketing, coaching, networking, publicity, community engagement, and more. With an SEO-optimized profile, exclusive press opportunities, and weekly co-working and business coaching sessions, you'll connect, grow, and gain visibility like never before. Are you ready to elevate your brand? We can't wait to work with you. Visit freshstartsregistry.com and become a Fresh Starts expert today.
Welcome back to A Fresh Story, the podcast where we have conversations about brave decisions to start over again. I'm Olivia.
And I'm Jenny. And we're so glad you're here today.
Okay. Ready? Mm-hmm. Hello, sister.
Hello.
Oh, what is that? You might hear two voices. We are so excited because this episode kicks off our sibling season of A Fresh Story podcast, where we're going to dive into the sibling dynamic in all different ways, with twins, with sisters, with brothers. And we're super excited
because some people have sisters.
Oh, and sisters and brothers, right? Yeah. I do have a brother too.
We do.
Yeah. So today, as you may have heard, we have our little sister here to kick off this very, very cool season. And we're going to be talking to her about what it was like to be raised kind of with us and kind of not with us, and what it looks like to be raised in, I would say, like a blended family. Like, we're not really blended.
I don't know what to call it.
Yeah.
It's like
I don't know.
Post-blended.
Well, it's not really blended. She's half of us.
No, I know. It's like, what is it? It's like, I don't know. A family.
Before we get into it, what is a family? What is a family?
We only booked an hour, so I don't think we can get into what is
we
a family.
do have our own therapist on. Though I was thinking, wouldn't it be funny to get Dad and his siblings on for an episode? Who would come on?
Would that be what you would call it? Funny?
Funny. Okay. Well, before we get into all of this,
but also, wait 1 second. Sorry, this is unrelated. Tess, do you think that are you very, very young millennial, or are you early Gen Z? You're young millennial, right?
No, I'm Gen Z.
You're Gen Z. I was going to say too, the relationship of millennial sisters and Gen Z sisters, like,
we can talk about that.
Yeah. I like watching Tess's face while we're embarrassing millennials.
No, I guess I'm not.
Okay, we'll talk about it. Okay.
She gathered everything in her body to say that.
She's so kind. She is so kind to humans and animals.
She is.
Okay, so we're going to let her introduce herself. So if you, sister, could introduce yourself to our audience. Who are you?
Hello. Excited to be here. It's my first podcast, actually, ever.
What?
That's exciting. Yeah.
Well, podcast virgin.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the youngest sister of the four of us. Mm-hmm. So, by Olivia and I are 13 years apart. So that's the biggest age gap. I grew up in the city, unlike my sisters who grew up on Long Island, and I live here now, and I'm actually moving to Boston. I'm getting my MBA in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You.
Thank you. And
what's your name? Did you say your name?
Oh, Tess. But I think Jenny.
I know, but I just
got there.
Okay.
Tess has a wonderfully modern name. I love your name.
Tess.
I like my name too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't really like my middle name anymore, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah.
I like that it's spelled with only one N, right?
No.
Okay. I thought
A-N-N-A-B-E-L.
To be fair, Colin
isn't it B-E-L?
Jenny.
It's just B-E-L.
Yeah, B-E-L.
Oh, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe cut that part.
No, it's okay. We're here for all of this. So let's go back a little bit, talk about the history and kind of how we all met each other. So, how did we come to be this trio of sisters? So as listeners might know, Jenny and our parents met in high school. They got married when they were 22 in 1982. Right. I was born in 1985. Jenny was born in 1987. Our brother was born in 1991. And then our parents got divorced in 1995. And this is where the story picks up. Right. So then our dad met your mom, Tess, right? And so they never got married.
They were introduced through a friend.
Right.
And I think it's worth noting that our moms both went to the same college. But they didn't go at the same time. I just think that's such a weird thing.
It is a weird coincidence.
Yeah. It's a very small college. But they were introduced to their friend, yes.
Yeah. And so Dad and Marina, your mom, started dating very soon after our parents got divorced. And, I know we've talked about this, but it was definitely a bumpy road for us with your mom. And then I think that there was like a fresh start that we felt when she got pregnant with you. And I remember being very, very excited. I think it was, I was like 12, I guess, when she got pregnant. And I would make like mixtapes for you. And I was just like, it was exciting to think of like a new baby coming into the picture.
I would say they did a good job of letting us have our baby. Like, we weren't there all the time, so maybe that made it easier. Maybe by the time we got there, your mom was like, take her, but, like I think that you, like Olivia and I very much felt like you were like our baby,
Well, I think it was important, my relationship with your mom wasn't great, and they didn't let that mar the relationship that we had with you. Right. And I think that was something, I don't know if they did it consciously, but it was important. So then your parents broke up, right? Your parents, Dad and Marina, broke up. How old were you, Tess, when that happened?
As far as I know, they actually stopped living together when I was 4. So, who knows how long they weren't.
It wasn't that long. It wasn't that long between the breakup and when Dad moved out. And they moved out when you were already in that apartment that your mom's in now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because but they moved in there together. And then we stayed there maybe, I don't know, 3
I don't think we ever stayed
or something. There. We did. Yeah, we did stay there. I think maybe one weekend. It was like
I don't
really.
think I did.
Okay, well, I don't know. And it wasn't very long between when they broke up and when they stopped living together.
So, Tess, what was it like? Okay, so let's put aside the sibling thing for a second. You grew up on the Upper West Side, right, with two parents. I will say divorced for all intents and purposes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
What was that like? Were there other families that looked like yours in the community? Were you bopping back and forth? Like, I don't even know what the custody arrangement was. I'm not even clear on that.
As you wished, as I remember.
Yeah. I would say it didn't feel unfamiliar that my parents weren't together. I think that was the case for like a lot of the families that I, grew up around. My mom had me like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at first. Mm-hmm. Dad had me Thursday, Friday, and then they alternated every other weekend. That was a stupid arrangement, in my opinion. I think like it was a lot of moving around.
Yeah.
That was kind of unique, I think, compared to a lot of the people that I like knew who were going back and forth between their parents. A lot of it was like every other week. Dad, I don't know if you feel the same way, but like during the breakup was just always was like 50-50 everything. Like he really wanted, I'm not sure if that, I'm sure that changed as he moved, but before that, I mean, I just know that that's like his firm belief that like, both parents should have 50-50.
Yeah. I mean, for us, just so like to share our experience, like Dad was very much, a primary parent. Like I won't say he was the primary parent, but like Dad was very much a primary parent for us when we were growing up before they got divorced.
Right.
So he was very involved, and I think which was unusual. And when they split up, he stayed in the house for a while, longer than he stayed in your mom's house. There was a period of time where both he and Pat were in the house, and he stayed in the house for a while, and then he moved out and he moved to Huntington, so he was nearby. And we did half the week. So we did Wednesday through Sunday and then Sunday through Wednesday. That was how we did it. And it's funny because like that worked for us, but I think that there were cars involved. Like we lived out in the suburbs, like, so it was a little bit different.
Yeah.
And there were 2 houses. Like it was Dad moved into that house in Huntington. That was very sweet. Whereas like when dad moved out from your mom's place, he moved into that studio, which was tiny.
Yeah, right.
You know, and so it's a different experience. And then we actually ended up at a every other weekend schedule because dad wanted to move it to every other week with us. And you had just been born. He was working in the city. Your mom was also, I think, back to work in the city. And he wanted to go he wanted to take it from half the week to every other week. So yes, staying with that same thing. And it just wasn't working. And it just wasn't right for the family at the time. Like I said, your parents were both working in the city. My mom was home. Like it made no sense for the family.
Yeah.
That's when we moved to every other weekend. That's not where it started. He wanted us all the time. I mean, and I think for dad, like for everything he is and isn't, like he always wants his kids with us.
We love you, Dad.
As he can possibly
we love you, Dad,
with us.
because he's going to listen to this. But I think that, I'm realizing, Tess, as you're talking, I guess that they coordinated weekends, right? So we could see you. I didn't even ever really put that together.
Yeah. I mean, Dad, basically, I think it was more as a needed basis than it really truly was every other weekend. I think Dad really, emphasized wanting to take me out to Long Island a lot. So, if that was the case, my mom, I think there was a little bit of tension involved, but I still was kind of going with him whenever he was seeing you guys, whenever he was going out to Long Island. He would try to make every opportunity that he could to, bring me along to come with.
Yeah. So what was that like, having these three older siblings? We have 13 years between us, big age difference. So what did you, and I genuinely don't know the answer to any of these questions, so I'm very curious. Like, what did you tell your friends? Like, did you say you had half siblings or that you were, I know probably you felt kind of like an only child a lot of the time.
Yeah, I definitely in Manhattan felt like an only child. By the time I had probably any awareness of my own family dynamics, at least Jenny, you were in college. By the time that made sense to me,
right.
You guys were older. So it wasn't ever up until that point, I was an only child. And then once I started realizing okay, well, there are these other people who they are my siblings. I don't know. I think I kind of was always saddened by the word half sister growing up.
Yeah.
Because I wanted so badly to feel like I had full siblings or I was an only child, but that middle ground kind of was a little sad.
You didn't get to claim either space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And I didn't like the idea that I was an only child either. I loved the idea of having siblings, and I always felt like that was something I was envious of the three of you for having. I wish that I had had, a little brother or a little sister or something kind of.
Don't wish for it too hard though. Just maybe don't tell Dad that.
No,
no, Dad, no.
I would be devastated.
No, Dad's done. Dad, you're done.
So I do feel that you have to me you have strong baby in the family energy in a good way. You're the toughest out of all of us. You're the toughest out of all of us, by far.
No. Well, I think it's interesting. Yes. I think it's interesting to if you take.
I'm not terrified of anybody in this world but my younger siblings. These are the only two people in the world that scare me.
She's crying as she's talking. I think let's take it from a sociological perspective too. We were raised in a completely different world than you were, right? We went to private school. We were raised by our grandparents a lot, right? We spent a lot of time with them here on Long Island. We had a stepfather we were kind of raised by also. We had our own trauma from our own parents' divorce. And then on the flip side, you had your own trauma. You had your own grandparents. You had all these things. I feel like it was a Venn diagram, right? Our lives overlapped in a lot of ways, but they were so different, right? Did you feel that, Tess, growing up?
Definitely. In all the ways that I felt connected to my siblings, I also acknowledge that we experienced life very differently. And that was always clear to me. And I think that separation was always a helpful reminder and why, also there's no way that my siblings will ever feel to me well, no, that's not how I want to word it. But just that it made it okay that things were a little bit not traditional.
Right.
It made more sense of that kind of dynamic that we had. and made me accept that more over time, I think.
Yeah. And I think from our perspective, it did the same thing, right? It was like, we have this new baby in the family and I think it wasn't fair to you in a lot of ways. I will say it had nothing to do with you, that like our relationship with our dad was really, confusing for me. My relationship with dad was very confusing for many years. My relationship with your mom was never very good. And so to then throw this kind of innocent baby into the mix, right? To be like, and now she's your sibling. And I also want listeners to remember too, we come from a family that has divorce all over the place and other half siblings and, blended things, right? So it wasn't like it was unusual for us to see that happen, but I think we were
different
young
when you experience it too.
and like,
definitely different.
Yeah. And I don't know if they really, like, I don't know if they really, talked about it in the way that people would now. Right. Like, I
don't think there was a lot of conversation. I don't think anybody knew how to do anything. I don't think a lot of the adults knew how to address the situation. I think that, we're sort of referencing, and I know this is sensitive, and, we have great respect for your mom because she's your mom and raised you, not because just by the nature of it, but like she was young. And she wasn't prepared. And I don't think she was prepared by people coming in. And I don't think she knew what to do. And I don't think that there were clear boundaries set for her of like, this is what the expectation is. Like, I think that a lot of people were, and I don't think that was because dad was trying to set her up. I think dad didn't know. I think that there was no conversation.
No, and she came into a tricky family. She came into a tricky family, right?
Right.
Like, dad's family.
There were other forces there were
other things
difficult.
And there was other influences. And she came in, unfortunately, at a time of huge hurting, right? Like looking back, I so much see it through her perspective too, right? Like now that I'm a divorced mom, I'm like, oh, I see, what she went through. But like at the time, I was 10 when, our parents split up, and dad was like my everything. Right. And so like for her to come in, I mean, I joke, but like I used to listen to like love songs and I would like think about dad. And I was like, he broke my heart. And so for your mom to come in, and then I was like, she stole him. Right. And it's like, but that's obviously not what happened. Right. But I didn't see that as a 10-year-old, and nobody was like, okay, let's suss this out. Right. Like, let's get into this. It's confusing.
Yeah. I mean, this makes me want to go down a completely different rabbit hole, but it just makes me think like it also comes down to the kinds of relationships we had with dad, like that probably wasn't a healthy relationship that you had with dad in the first place. And it was mirrored for sure in my relationship with him, and maybe even amplified because I was the only child for a while.
Yeah. You got it a lot longer. And I think you got used to it in a way. Yeah. You and I have had this conversation before.
And yeah, sorry. I think this is an important element of the story, is that, I feel like, we had such different dads, right? And so when you were, and I think what you're alluding to, Tess, is kind of this partnership with dad that's more like a partner than a daughter in some ways, right? And so I think when you were growing up, dad was sick, right? He had some stuff going on too. And so there was like a huge element of fear and worry, and you are an incredibly compassionate, right? Like empathetic person that is a natural born caretaker, that I think even as a child, right, you were concerned with dad's health. So, it's almost like we got different.
And also being a kid in the city, you're already like more mature than most, right? There's like a maturity.
Independent.
It's dependent. Yes, I think it does. But I think there's a facade of maturity.
I think she said independent.
Oh, I'm sorry. Independent. Yep. And then also being an only child in a lot of the capacity that you were, like, I think that there was a lot that you took on. Even if you didn't.
From both of your parents, I think, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, they definitely had different issues growing up, but I did.
Like, sorry, you go.
No, go.
Yeah, and like you are your mom's only child, which is a very different situation than we are with being our mom's kids, right? And it is very different, and like, it's hard. And you and I have talked about this too, of like, because of the timing of things, you never saw us have a relationship with your mom, which we did for many years.
Right.
And so it's just like so weird because it's like this lore that you hear about, but it's never something that you saw. It's never something that you experience. So there's just this added element to it of like, you know, it's this story we tell you, but like that doesn't feel real to you, I'm sure.
And there's different perspectives. There's dad's perspective of your everyone's relationship with my mom. There's my mom's perspective.
Yeah,
there's
of course.
The kids' perspective. And each of you have a different perspective
100%.
relationship with her too.
We do.
So it's,
we do.
It's
and a relationship with you. And a relationship with you. You know, I think like, you know, in so many ways, I was out of the picture quickly, right? I was in college and, you know, I was married pretty young, you know, things like that. Whereas I feel like Jenny in a lot of ways kind of became like the oldest sister because I was out of the picture.
Well,
I don't know.
Yeah, and you also removed yourself from the picture because of your relationship with dad wasn't super functional before you had the kids. And so I felt, well, I'm the peacemaker, right? Like I am the middle child, whether there's 3 of us at moms or 4 of us are dads, like I am the middle child.
Like Colin's not like the peacemaker?
Shocking. Colin would say the peacemaker. He's not here to defend himself, so
we invited him.
I think that I don't know. I've always it's hard. It's just it's never been easy. Like we've been easy, but like the dynamics are difficult because of all of the many stories and the personalities and everybody's story is their truth. Everybody's story is their truth that they're telling, right?
But I don't know. Go ahead, Jenny. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, like Tess and I have gone through it in a way that Olivia and I haven't gone through it. Like we've gone through it. There have been we've yelled at each other. We've fought with each other.
I've never done that with Tess.
No. It's coming for you.
No, I'm like the more of like a mother, not a mother figure, but I think I'm
like you. It's like an aunt or like a cousin. Like I feel like that's like, you know, how you sort of, and I think it's different now, but I think for a long time that was sort of the position you took because, like I said, you removed yourself from the dynamic a lot of the time. But like I think with Tess, you know, we vacationed together with dad, just the 2 of us, and been to places. And
I don't know. Would you say that's more of a typical sister relationship?
I think maybe. What do you think?
I will say it's contrived a little, right? Not, I wouldn't say now, but that was by
you've said that before.
Design. Yeah, like I was trying to emulate the things that I'd seen that siblings did with you because I felt that closeness to you, and I was like, I get to be mean to you because that's what sisters do, and I get to do these things.
It didn't feel good at the time, but I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad that you felt close to me because you've always been my baby. Like
here we go.
Somebody else.
Here we go.
You've always been my baby. I remember holding you for the first time, and all the adults left the room. I was 11, and I looked at you, and I thought, like, they're gonna leave me with this baby. They're gonna just trust me with her.
Yeah, well,
they were all going
screw
to
those adults.
That speaks even more volumes. And I just, you've always been my baby, but it's I mean, and like it's funny, right? Because you think about Paris, which was, you know, you were really young, and I was really emotionally young, and then you think, which was a tough trip for us. That's why I mentioned it like that. But then you think about when I came to visit you in Spain. Yeah. And that was an amazing trip. And then our trip to Mystique together, which was a mix, but as far as siblings went, great.
You know, absolutely.
A great trip. And when you came here to visit me, like I'm so grateful because it doesn't feel, we did have to like figure it out together, and we have had these conversations, and we've gotten to have them in some beautiful locations, you know, but we've had these conversations with each other about like, it's awkward. And I think when people talk about divorce and divorce can ruin children, Olivia and I always like, divorce doesn't ruin children. It's what you do after that can ruin them, and that can be awkward, and that can be hard. And I hope that like, if parents are in positions like ours were, there's now resources like Fresh Starts, not to pitch my own, you know, plug my own company here, but like there's now resources like Fresh Starts where it's like you can go and like, I think set yourself up for much more than what the adults were set up for.
Tess, do you remember, like, are there specific positive or negative memories of growing up with like 3 siblings?
What she's trying to ask is, what's your favorite memory about me and why?
Because we did do a lot. Dad, I think, the journey of Dad is kind of the thread here in a lot of ways too.
Yeah.
Right. He had a big kind of coming into himself and figuring out like what kind of a parent was he going to be? What kind of a, partner or whatever. And I think also, right, to add to this is that he financially was in a very different situation when he was raising you than when he was raising us, and so we got to do things as a family that were beautiful, like vacations and beach houses and all of these things. So I'm just curious if anything, I remember moments with you. I remember your birthday party at the carousel and, you came to visit me when I was a camp counselor and I got to take care of you for the day. I don't know if you remember that, and so we had memories with you, but I'm curious if you have any specific memories.
It's really, my memory is very odd and picks up certain things, but like I do remember being really excited to go visit you at Drew and like see your dorm and like how exciting that was for me to like see what it's like to be at college. And like I remember going to the beer garden, not going in the beer garden, but like seeing that and being like, whoa, like I don't know, things like that. Or I know we visited you at NYU too once. Like
you did
apartment, I think.
Yeah, when I lived downtown,
that was also really exciting for me. And
Dominican Republic. Do you remember the Dominican Republic?
Like no, not at all.
Okay,
I know. Jenny
I remember taking care of you most of that trip.
Of course you did. Jenny got sick.
You were little.
Yeah,
I did get sick.
But that's just lore.
You were little, I don't know, but you were little. You were what? I mean, you were what?
It was like 4.
You were 5, I think. 4 or 5. Yeah.
I remember London a little. Like
right. Again, you were young.
I fell. Oh, this isn't all just about how I got injured on family vacations. Got it?
No, I don't remember.
Yeah, you were little. I mean,
but I think that's an interesting.
I always laugh because people are like, "Wow, you took 4 kids to London." I'm like, "Well, one was 17, so like it wasn't really 4 kids." But I tell people, I'm like, we spent a lot of time at playgrounds because that's what you wanted to do. That was one of my favorite stories. Do you remember the story? We were at Harrods and you looked around and you were like, "I want something," and Dad was like, "You got something already," and you go, "Everybody else got more than me." And Dad goes, "Jenny got one thing, Olivia got one thing, Colin got one thing, you got one thing." And you go, you wave your hands around, you go, "Everybody else here got more than me."
I mean, I think, I think that there's something to be said there too. Like you were brought along, right, on all of these like other adventures. Like when we went to California and, when we landed, remember? And Dad, we were starving.
Do you remember this story, Tess?
She probably doesn't. She was so little. And so we landed and we were all cranky. We all missed our moms in some capacity because we were young children on a trip with our divorced dad. And it was like we were jet lagged. And so Dad was like, "Fine, I'll find somewhere for you to eat." And so we go to the boom boom room, which was
that wasn't what happened. We got into the cab with Alex, the cab driver. And Olivia and I looked at each other and we go, "This is going to be this cab driver's best week he's ever had." And Dad goes, Can you take us to the hotel? This is what happened. Dad goes, "Can you take us to the hotel?" And we go to the hotel and we have 2 rooms and it was like girls' room, boys' room. Dad and Colin were going to stay in one. You were going to stay with us. But knowing that that you wouldn't really stay with us, that you would probably stay with Dad most of the time.
Yeah.
And they take us through, and it's not a hotel. It's a proper motel on the side of the Pacific Coast Highway. And and our rooms are on different floors. So if you had wanted to go to Dad in the middle of the night, there was no that happening. We walk in, and Dad goes, "Don't put your bags down.
Don't touch anything.
Don't touch
Was
anything."
Julie there? I remember this, but Julie was the ringleader being like, "We're not staying here."
Julie wasn't there.
I think she had booked rooms there too.
Oh,
I think that she had booked for all of us. She didn't know. Yeah.
She wasn't with us though when that happened. Yeah. So then Dad calls the driver that just dropped us off, Alex, who's Hawaiian.
It was the wedding.
It was the wedding.
Yeah, it was Deborah's wedding.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the driver comes back and picks us up, and Dad goes, "Can you take us someplace to go for lunch?" Right. And the guy's like, "I got you." And then he drops us off at the boom boom room, which is where Olivia's story picks up.
Yeah, and which by night was like a gay strip club or something. Yeah. And we were the only ones in there during the day. And you were like running around, and we were
I remember
"Don't touch anything." Yeah.
They had games. Yeah, they had like some like pinball or something.
It had a back room area. Yeah. I actually remember that. That's crazy.
Yep.
Yeah. See.
And then where did we end up? Where did we end up after that?
We walked into the Ritz-Carlton in Laguna Beach.
Rooms anywhere except for
Dad
the
put it
Ritz-Carlton.
on his credit card.
Yeah. We walked in and they handed us bags of gear, towels and beach balls, and they said, "Welcome, Dryzen family." And Olivia and I were like,
there was music playing.
This is it. This is the moment to be for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, that's what we're working towards. We're working towards that.
Yep.
Yeah. No, so we've had a lot of adventures together. So Tess, I guess if you were talking to somebody that was in a situation that was maybe a half sibling, but okay, let's just get into it for a second about the half sibling name, right?
I say I have a sister and she's a different mom. That's how because how people are sometimes confused.
I'm curious how you label that, Tess, or if you label it at all.
Yeah, I mean, I say I have siblings usually. I just say siblings. I think it's just kind of no one's business. Also, like what my relationship to you guys is. Like,
fair point.
And you are, in essence, my siblings, whether you're fully related to me or not. Like, we have the same dad. We have a lot of, I think, especially with age, has come a lot of, I don't know, understanding that we have maybe more in common than we think we do about
common trauma. We have more common trauma.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's really bonded us in a lot of ways, even though that's a horrible thing to bond over, but it is bonding nonetheless. Like,
yeah. Has it been interesting becoming an aunt?
Definitely. I mean, I think, how do you even know how to be an aunt at 16, right? Like, or 17.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's, it was amazing to like watch these little humans be born and knowing like that, like I get to like watch them grow up and but at the same time there's no handbook kind of how to like deal with that for sure.
Well, you've always done such a beautiful job at just infusing love, right? Like you are like, and I say this, like you're just somebody that is a very, very loving person. You're an amazing educator. And I mean, I think, you were 16, but you were just like, okay, well, we're going to include them in the fold and I'm going to love them with everything I have.
And you were fun in a way that that their other aunt was not. Like, and you got to be I don't want to be the fun aunt. I have zero interest in that. That's your job. Like, and I think that you were like, Olivia and I had young uncles and aunts. Leslie is like, I don't know, 16 years older than Olivia. So like that tracked for us. And I think that you get to, like you said, I understand the feeling. You get to watch them grow and develop and be for all these years. It's very exciting.
And expand the family. Yeah.
I'm growing at the same time that they are still. Like, I feel like.
Yeah, I think Weston's taller than you now.
Which is bananas. Truly. But
so if you were talking to a friend or if you were talking to somebody who was, I don't know, let's take it from this perspective, like, struggling with kind of this idea that like maybe they have siblings from another parent and they want to figure out that relationship, what would you say to them?
I think, unfortunately, a lot of it comes with age. And you can only say so much until you start realizing kind of the reality behind some of those dynamics. But I will say grace is probably what I would say has kind of guided me with, understanding my role and my relationships with the three of you. I feel like I've only been able to like lead with giving grace to everyone who's been involved now that I understand kind of a lot more of your perspectives and like my mom's perspective and dad's perspective. And then even like outsiders who just kind of were a part of our journey, but not, directly involved. And like, just for instance, like I know that both of you had, somewhat contentious relationships with my mom. And that was really painful, I think, growing up, like not understanding why that is and just feeling like I had to choose a side, right? Like it was either kind of believing my mom or believing you guys. And the truth is, as a kid, you don't have to choose. No one was making me choose, but I think there was some guilt, some internal guilt, and
of course,
some grace to yourself. I know that's hard to say to a youngster, in which that's the point where it probably is the most confusing, but it's true. Like to reassure that there's no reason to feel guilty, you weren't, and not to have to make any, choose any sides in this process. Yeah. I'm grateful that I've been able to kind of understand everyone's perspectives a little more because it just makes me feel more at peace with where I stand in the middle of it. Like I know that like, just because there were issues between you know, you guys, my mom, or you guys and dad, like, that doesn't change my relationship with you guys, and it doesn't really change my relationship with either of them.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, like, is it nice knowing, I guess now that you're a little older, that like you do have siblings that are not going anywhere, like that your relationship with us is now kind of cemented because like our parents are not really involved.
Definitely. I mean, it's tricky. First of all, like, I feel like our relationship was a little bit contingent upon dad, and my relationship with dad has changed tremendously over the past 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. And I think that's the reality of a lot of sibling relationships, right? Like I mean, I think too that when we look at like an outsiders, like most sibling relationships are not as deep, right? As we tend to do them in our family dynamic, right? So like, I think in our family, we tend to be like, our siblings are everything to us, right?
So, yeah, speaking from the girl who started a business with her sister.
Right. But
so,
I think, I think that like, actually it's been very normal and natural, like that how you have handled your siblings, Tess. Like, I think that like your relationship with Jenny and your relationship with Colin, and I think a lot of siblings don't see each other unless they're seeing the parent, right? So it's
I think the thing is that we tend to focus on the thing, like we assume that it's because of the reason that we're different, right? So it's like I've done this. I used to, it's like to Andre, who like, wasn't my guy for emotions, but there was a period of time when Tess and I weren't speaking, and I would cry to him and I'd be like, it makes me so sad. And he'd be like, I need to be honest with you. That's the normal sister relationship. And what you've got with Olivia is fucking bizarre. Like, and it was a good point. But like, the thing is, I don't understand that because the only sister relationship I've ever had with you is that you have a different mom and I have this mom and we're dealing with our own shit. And like, there's all this other stuff going on. And so it feels like that's the reason. Who could say what the reason is? Who could say what any reason is? But what I do know is that like the decision to pick each other as siblings, as friends, is our decision, right? And the decision to say like, yeah, it's hard because, we are not doing a trip to Mystique this year. Damn it. But like, we're not doing a family like beach holiday this year. But like that like, that your sisters and your brother are always there for you. And
absolutely.
And I know that. And like when I say that my younger siblings are the scariest people I know, like I also know that like I can't imagine what I could do to turn Tess against me at this point. Like, so I know that scare that like her curiosity, I don't know, is like, that is on my side. Like you are on like, and I know that, like I'm very secure in that. And I think that you and I have gotten to that place together.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think too, there's like a common bond that we all have. We all love or hate him on the day, but we all love dad, with a huge, like very, he's our dad. And so we come together if we need to do what we need to make sure he feels loved, and I think that I like to think of us as I wouldn't use the word strong, like it's a strong bond, but like, I think that we have a very wonderfully loving sibling set, even if we don't always see each other all the time. And even if we don't talk all the time, if we needed to pick up anywhere and do anything, or if anybody needed anything, we would be there. And I think that's very normal siblings. Maybe that's really what like the bottom line is like, you let us be normal siblings. Like,
my God, that's so true.
You let us
stop
like
us from being fucking weirdos.
Well, we're still weirdos, but yeah.
Well, yeah, but like just the two of us. You kept Colin safe though. Like, like I think that that's a really fair point. Like, people say like when they have their final child, they're like, now my family feels complete. And I think that you complete our family. Like we wouldn't have been complete without you. And you're our mom's favorite. I mean, that too, but like, you complete our family. Like you balance out the dynamic in a very significant way. And you bring, a different kind of mind to the family. You bring a different kind of energy and different perspectives that like, we all do, but like we would be incomplete without you as a family.
Yeah, we're like a sitcom family with you.
And by that, I mean she's going to go get her MBA, and somebody needs to know how to do business properly. And this,
I don't know. Don't count on me for that.
Well, we appreciate your honesty and we appreciate you coming on and sharing this. And I hope it gives other siblings the chance to have some conversations, because I think, we are so informed by our sibling relationships, whether we like to think of it or not. Right. So, there were parts of your life, Tess, that, I didn't see you for months at a time, right? And how does that inform you? And how do, all of these different things, right? So I just hope anybody that's listening that has, whether it's, however you are siblings, whatever the dynamic is there, whether you're step, half, whatever, full, which is also stupid. It's all stupid labels, right? It's like, dumb. It's dumb.
I will just say one thing that, you guys made me think of is, like, definitely, if you can, speak candidly with your sibling to the level that you feel comfortable with and that you think they will be able to receive too. Don't, not too far. But I think you and I, Jenny, like you and I having those kinds of conversations did really change and develop our relationship. So if we hadn't had those, if I had bottled that stuff up and kind of resented our dynamic, like, then we wouldn't be where we are today. And I am really, like, eternally grateful for, the way that our relationship has developed because of those kinds of conversations, for sure.
Yeah, I know. And I remember I was scared, I was scared to have those conversations with you, and I didn't want to hurt you. And I don't know. I think they were scary conversations for both of us, but we were both brave, and I'm so glad, because I feel like it was the fresh start of our relationship. Like, it allowed us, it's sort of the way I think of it. It was an opening of the door to our adult relationship.
Yeah, definitely.
And then we walked through it, and I think Olivia and Colin followed us through that. I think we sort of, like, we opened it up. We were like, okay, by the way, we're having these conversations now. We're doing it now. Like, we're not, and I think it allowed, again, me to have those kind of conversations with Olivia and Colin too. Because there's been conversations with Colin where I'm like, oh, Colin and I didn't have the same childhood. We were only 4 years apart with growing up in the same house. So it really, you are fearless, and you are brave, and you are exceptionally amazing. And I hope you always know that. And I hope you know that your siblings feel that way about you.
No.
Why am I the only one crying?
Well, that's been the eternal question of our family. And Dad, if you're listening, we will take that vacation. So
I was thinking maybe someplace like, here.
Well, yeah.
Come to Europe.
Where are my children going to be?
I don't know, leave them someplace.
Well, we appreciate you. And we hope that this conversation, opens some ideas and thoughts for other people to have these conversations, because I think, so much of this conversation too is about adult sibling relationships, right? Yeah. And how do you transmute a lot of those feelings from childhood into these adult relationships, while also managing the dynamics of your parents and however many parents there are around you, right? And it's tricky. It's really tricky. Thank you, Tess, for being here and for sharing. And we adore you. And
is there anything else you would like to say before we go?
You don't have to.
I will say that about you. No, I would like to see Davy. Davy, do you have anything?
Her dog.
Davy is a dog.
I will say, part of what, and before we go, what I love, Jenny, you were talking about having conversations with Tess. Tess does have a business mind, and I get the honor. She gets to call me with her business ideas, and I love nothing more than to talk about that with her. So, it's been a joy watching you grow up and to see the person that you become, and, to see elements of each other in each other, I think is really cool. And I
also like to say something else about Tess.
Okay, we're going to keep going.
Yeah. I would like to say something else before we hit stop, which is that she's also an exceptional poet. And in a way, and like, I appreciate it because when she came onto the scene, started writing poetry when she was younger, I felt a little threatened because I was also writing poetry. But I'm so impressed by her ability. I'm threatened by her ability now, not by the fact that she's writing poetry. Tess and I did a poetry class for a while together. And that, by the way, if you're looking for something to do with your siblings to connect you, to bond you, to learn more about them, like, that was an exceptional way, I think, of learning more about each other. And
things about Dad you didn't want to know.
There were things about Dad in those poetry classes we did not want to know.
I still learn about them every Tuesday. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've stopped for other reasons.
Well, thank you for being here and for sharing. And please continue to listen to A Fresh Story. There's going to be a lot more interesting sibling stories coming up. Thank you for listening to today's episode. A Fresh Story podcast is produced by Fresh Starts Registry, the first and only platform for everything you need to begin again, from home items to Hype Team and everything in between. You can learn more and read today's show notes at afreshstory.com.
Are you a freelancer, solopreneur, writer, creative, or professional looking to achieve your goals within a supportive community? Have you found that working from home on your own gets lonely? That you're missing the accountability and community of a positive workplace environment? We understand. And we're so excited to introduce you to the Fresh Starts Collective. For just $35 per month, gain access to 6 daily offerings a week, including virtual co-working, open office hours for business coaching, accountability sessions, and networking opportunities. Enjoy expert workshops, monthly events, and an extensive content library. Connect with marketing, design, and writing professionals to brainstorm and grow together. Surround yourself with accountability, community, and growth. Elevate your journey with the Fresh Starts Collective for only $35 per month. Visit freshstartsregistry.com and join us today.